A bit later on. But now let's get more on the international effort to tackle West Africa's deadly Ebola outbreak. I'm joined now from Glasgow by the immunologist Dr. Sheena Cruikshank. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us. What treatment is there out there at the moment for dealing with Ebola?
So the treatments that they use at the moment are really about managing the symptoms. So it's things like keeping the patient hydrated rather, and as comfortable as possible. There are experimental treatments that are being investigated. So a lot of these focus on either inhibiting the ability of the virus to reproduce in the cells or inhibiting the ability of the virus to get in or out of cells. And there's also effort in looking at vaccine development that will give long-term protective immunity and prevent you from actually catching the virus in the first place.
Which, of course, would be hugely useful to any healthcare workers who are deciding whether or not to go out and help with the treatment of the disease there.
Yes, they would be. Unfortunately, all of these are still experimental. There has been a massive push from the scientific community and sort of world organisations to get some of these drugs and vaccine developments into phase 1 trials to look at safety and look at their efficacy in the field. So hopefully we will see some more of these things getting to the people that need them. And I believe they have been looking at giving some of the volunteers protective serum from people who've already had Ebola and may have a protective immune response in their serum.
Well, yes, and time is, of course, of the essence, isn't it? So normally a very long process getting a drug developed, but how possible is it to speed that process up?
I think there's only so much you can do to speed it up, because it's really important that you determine that it's both safe, it's got no contraindications that will make a patient unwell, and that it's safe to use with, say, other drugs or other vaccine regimes. It's practical, it's easy to transport. So there's a whole lot of things that they have to take into consideration. So they kind of phase these things up to sort of look at that, moving all the way through from phase 1, which is just safety and just a few volunteers, all the way through to phase 4, which is really looking at it in the field in endemic areas. And that always takes time. But what they've been able to do in this particular instance is sort of fast track it going to at least phase 1 trials and looking very closely at the efficacy of this vaccine.
So how soon, in your best guess, could it be before we see a drug that's useful that can be sent out to West Africa and help treat people?
Well, some experimental batches have gone out, as I've said. They're sort of talking that really, for any kind of mass thing, they're hoping 2016 was what the latest thing I saw from the World Health Organization. So we'll just have to see. There's only so much rushing you can do with these things, because safety and ethics are critically important.
Well, Dr. Sheena Cruikshank, really interesting to hear from you this afternoon. We appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.